Imagine building a custom dashboard where users can log in, generate content, and send requests, all without writing a single line of code. If this sounds impossible, think again. In this video, I will show you a step-by-step guide on how to create a fully automated, login-protected dashboard using Softr, Gmail authentication, and Make.com. And I'll also reveal how to set up a smart trial system that limits usage and prompts user to subscribe once they hit this specific limit. So if you're ready to turn your app idea into reality, this is the video to watch. Let's get right into it. So over here, I have Softr. I just created a new app, and you can obviously start from scratch, start with a template, or generate with AI. In my case, I'm just going to start from scratch. This very conveniently asks me if I want to connect to a specific database. Let's just choose Airtable, hit continue. I can select my base here. So I already created a new base in Airtable, which I called Softr project. So let's just choose that right here. And over here, this doesn't seem to be able to pull that. So let's add another data source, and potentially it's because I know it was connected to an old account or something like that. So I call this Softr project. So let's just connect to this specific base. So now our base is right there. And in our base, so far we just have this table one that we get right here, which is the same table one we can see over here. So that is connected well. Let's just choose continue. And this is generating the app. So it's building the app's foundation on the fly. We get the welcome screen right here. We get the table with some bunch of random data. We get another block, which doesn't have anything. So let's just have a think about this and the way this is going to look in the live version, the public or the production version. So what I want is something like this. So let me just move this here. Essentially, what we want is that the number one, user logs in. Number two, user can make requests in order to, let's say, as a test case, let's say that the user is able to generate paragraphs. Once the user makes that request, there are two options. So either we actually generate the paragraph and return the data to the user in Softr, so return to Softr. Alternatively, if the user has exceeded the number of paragraphs that they can generate, we return error message. And the error message would be something like, you have exceeded your requests, please subscribe, right? So those are the possible paths. And all of this will be protected behind a login screen that the user will have to log into in order to be able to generate this data. And obviously you can see how this can translate to different situations, irrespective of whatever the user is trying to generate. So in this case, if the user is not, attempting to generate paragraphs, but is instead generating articles, or is generating images, or is generating any type of content, essentially, this can, or the system can still apply. So this is what we're going to be building here. And the tool stack we're using, as we mentioned, we have Softr, we have Airtable, and we'll also be using Make to connect everything together. So those are the three tools that we will be using. So that's the whole game plan for this video. So let's go back to Softr here and let's get started. So as you can see here, this is, if we go to visibility, this is what the logged in users will see. What we also probably want would be a screen that the logged out users would be able to see. So here we can create a new user group, which would be for those that are non-logged in. So let's just start building this step by step. So over here we have welcome logged in user. Obviously this would change based on the name of the person. And here we have the different pages. So we have app pages, table one details. We have login, account settings, forgot password, etc., etc. Okay, so let's just get started. We have table one, which I don't think we'll need on this specific page. So here we are. A page is table one details. What I want is this to be the home page. So on the home page, do I want this? I mean, potentially I can give the user the stuff that they've generated before. Let me just So I can add record, delete. What I don't like is this part right here. For some reason, I can't delete this stuff. So let's just trash that. And let's start from scratch. So welcome, Kevin, for example. This is your home page. And let's add a block here that is a list. So here, the user will be able to see what they have created. Okay. Thinking about the information here in Airtable, we also want to potentially have two tables. So one would be the user login details. So let's call it users. The other will be the actual content. So the stuff that each user would have generated. In the users, we want to have the, let's say, the email of the person. So this will be the primary field. We want to have the, let's let this refresh. And potentially we want to have the name of the person, the number of attempts that they have created, which in production, this would be potentially something that resets every month. And I think that's pretty much it in terms of getting this underway. So let's just have the name there. Let's just have the number of generations. Let's call this number. No decimal places. Let's hit create. Over here, we want to have the, let's have the name of the person. That's fine as the primary field, which should also be connected to the, actually maybe the email should also be the primary field here. And then we'll just have the actual content that was generated. So generated content, which is a long text. So this, actually this email should link to this email right here. So probably let's just create a linked field, link to another record, and the users table will link to one record, and let's just link to the email field. So like this, this can probably go away. So we have an email here where the name is that and that is that. Once we create content, this would be linked to Kevin, and we get the information here. Also, this would now not be the email, so this can be a record ID. So we'll just change this to formula, and let's put in a record ID there. So we get unique record IDs each and every time here. So here we can generate new content that is also linked to a user. Okay, so for some reason this isn't connecting, or it's not able to find. Okay, yeah. So now user Kevin has generated two pieces of content, and this will auto increment through make.com as well. I mean, this could also reflect how many pieces of content we have connected here, I guess, but it also makes sense, I think. Let's see here. Okay, so this is working well now. So Kevin has, for example, two generated pieces of content, which are these. And if we go to the contents table, these can link to Kevin. So now Kevin should have these two pieces of content connected. Great. So that's the whole connection right here. What I want to do back in Softr is over here. Let's just choose the source. So the base is Softr project right here. The table for the content, if I refresh this, will now be content. We don't have to choose a view. I don't think that is relevant. And here we have show relevant data. So here we want to only show data where the generated content is where the, can I go with linked here? Or potentially I would need to go with the other table. So let's show the table users. No. So I don't need to have the email in the content here, but maybe I can go with the linked. So let's just go with the content table where, yes, linked is exactly the logged in user email. So this should only display the information. If the logged in user email is kevin@kevin.com, this should only show stuff that is related to the specific user. So that's the first thing. Okay. So I think that makes sense. Let's just, I think I need to publish in order to save this. So let's just do that. And over here, we also get the custom domain, or the Softr domain as well. So this can also be changed further down the line. So that's the first thing. So this is the page that will display the current, the stuff that the user would have created. What I want, in addition to this, is to have a section where the user can generate new content, right? So let's just see if we can edit this. Or we just add a new block. So let's just add a new block here. Let's just put this as it can be a form here, because all we need is, so I'm pretty sure we can add custom code, item details, static. Can we add custom HTML, custom code? But I believe this is, okay, we can try free. Custom code does not render on the canvas. Open the preview mode to view it. We're working on improving this experience. Okay. So we can also add some custom code here that would allow us to link to something specific, like a custom form that we create. The problem is this, though. This block is part of the basic plan. You can continue to configure it, but will no longer be visible in the Publish tab. Please upgrade your plan to continue using this block. Okay, so just go with a normal HTML form in our case. So in this case, I can send information to a data source. And yep. So let's send. So maybe one thing to think about over here would be to not just have the generated content, but also the request that comes in from the user. I think that also makes sense. So let's insert another column. Call this user request. Put in a long text there. So we'll also have what the user would have specified. And then we can compare that with the actual generated content. I think that makes sense as well. Over here, what I want is, so the submit button can stay. That's fine. Do I want full name and city? Not really. So let's see. We can have this. Okay. We have the questions here. We don't need the name. So we don't need that. Can we single line text? The label can be keyword. The placeholder can be keyword as well. It is required, and this will map to not generated content. No. So here this also needs to refresh as well. And so section 1. So on submit, show success message. Thank you for submitting the form. So here we need to make a few changes. So we have the logic. Okay, just need to remove the additional stuff. We have the styles, we have the visibility. So for section 1, heading 1 can stay there, but not talk to a sales representative. Let's say enter your keyword below. Then we have the text, which we don't really need, so we can trash that. So now that text was deleted. And then we have the city, which we don't need as well. So here, this is the keyword, which is this right here. My question is, where is this city input form being created? So here we just need to choose where to map this. Generated content. No. Let me just publish this. I'll refresh. So I just need to figure out where the city is coming from. Questions, heading 1. Okay, let's enter a keyword below. Keyword, which is this right here. Let me add something, and I can searching content, generated content, LinkedIn user request. Okay, so that will go. This is actually the user request. So let's delete that. Let's call that user request. I think that makes more sense, in fact, to be called user request. So now, okay, this maps to the user request. The label can be keyword, and this will be type your keyword here. I think that makes sense. Great. What I don't want is this city field here, which for some reason is still being displayed. Okay, so this is in section 2. So I can just delete this section too. Hit delete. Great. Now I have just the form input box that I want, which is the keyword right here. So now if I zoom out, let me see if this makes sense. So we got this part right here where we have the categories, which I don't really want. So I can also trash these. Okay. So this is just your home page. So instead of this is your home page, you can just say enter your keyword below to get started. So that's the first part. Great. What I want here is the form. Okay, that looks good. And their keyword here. And this part should theoretically display the information that the user would have had returned to them, right? So let's publish this, publish updates. What I also want to check before testing this out is what happens once I hit submit. So what I want is that I want to send this to a specific data source, right? Which is this part right here. What I would also like to see is if I can send this directly to Make. Great. And this is the part I want because I want to send this to a webhook. So I'm going to log in to make.com and start a new scenario, which is the scenario that will get triggered when this form gets submitted. What I also want to see is what information, or if I'm able to redirect this to a specific message. And I'm not sure about it. I know I had used Softr a few months ago, but I'll just see what we have there. So in my make.com, all I'm doing is just creating a new scenario, which is this right here. And here I just want to have a custom webhook that will get triggered when the user sends or fills in this form right here. So I'm just going to paste that in there. Create a new scenario. Okay. Paste there. Okay. So let's just send some test data and see if this gets here. So that actually is working well. Great. So go to make, determine data structure, hit OK. So that looks fine. So let's publish and save the updates here. What I want in make to happen once I got some information here is, first of all, I want to use the email from here to check whether the user has gone over the number of requests that I want them to be able to do. So let's say that as an example, I'm going to set the max user request. And let's put this at 5. So what I want is I now want to go to Airtable. I want to, let's just search for the records. And I'm going to search for the information here. So I want to get the information about the users, where the email is the one that came in through Softr, because like that I'll be able to see the number of generations that that user would have already made. So I have my Softr project here. Let me zoom out. I'm going to search that base. The table will be the users table. And for formula, that is where I will grab the information from the webhook. So I'm just going to say the email must be equal to the webhook information, which is this email right here. So this should only be 1, because there will only be one of the same user type or of the same email address. And if I run this again, let's just actually open up Postman. So I'll be able to test this on the fly as well. And if you haven't used this, Postman is essentially a software tool that allows you to send HTTP requests to a specific webhook. And instead of having to fill in a form each and every time, you can just grab the address of that webhook. You can go here, start a new request by going to body row, paste in the webhook right there. And if you grab that output bundle, you can kind of reenact this information that came through your webhook the first time around. The best part about it is that you can also change stuff around. So now, instead of test email at example.com, I can put in kevin@kevin.com, which was I believe, the email that I had saved in my Airtable here. So this would be like the webhook would have come from that, or would have that information, right? So if I go here, hit send, and go to make, the email is now kevin@kevin.com, which also means that this also got the information that is important for me from Airtable, which is specifically this number of generations, because now I can compare this, and if it's less than the value I have set here, I can proceed. If it's more, or if it's the same, I can say don't proceed, and whatever needs to be done if those requests are the same or exceeded, right? Softr YouTube example. Let's just give it a name. Hit save, and let's compare those two. So let's just have a router here where we say if, let's call this requests exceeded. So here, if the number of generations are, let's go to numeric operator, greater than or equal to the max user requests, then this is where the requests are exceeded, right? And here will be, I mean, this is actually not a question, but let's hit save, and let's say requests not exceeded. And let's put this as the fallback route. So if it's not exceeded, this is the route down which we will go. Okay, so over here we get the name, the email, and the message. And probably we're interested in this message, which is where the user would have entered their keyword, right? So what we want to do there would be to do OpenAI. Let's create a completion and choose the model. Going to remove the max tokens, and let's create a paragraph based on that specific keyword. So let's put in a system message. You are a content creator that takes in a user keyword and provides an in-depth paragraph around that keyword. Only output the paragraph, nothing else. And here in the message, I'm just going to pass along the user keyword, which would probably be in this message right here. So we'll have to give that a run very soon. So this is the generate paragraph. What we want to do then is save the information to our table, right? So we want to save the information as a new piece of content right here. We want to save the user request. We want to save the ChatGPT output here, and we want to link it to the right email. So let's just do that here. So Airtable, let's create a new record in the Softr project base. So that's there. It will be in the content table. So let's choose that. Now the user request will be the stuff that came in from my webhook. Generated content will be the result from ChatGPT. I'm going to link it to the record ID that is linked to kevin@kevin.com. So essentially here, I need to grab the record ID of this specific row. So we need to add an additional step before we're able to create a record here. So I'm just going to put a placeholder, and I need to get that specific record ID, which actually I already know from here, right? Because here I'm getting, yes, so that should be right here. So this ID right there. So let's just add that. So here I'm just going to add the record ID from there, and that should do the trick. So let's rename this, and let's call it saving user content. So now let's go back to Postman. For the message, let's just change this to doc training. This should be the same, and that's pretty much it. So if I go here, let me zoom out a bit. Let's run this one so this webhook starts listening, and let's just send the information or the request from Postman. This went down this route, request not exceeded, and here, oops, oh, by mistake I pressed that once more, but if I go to my Airtable, I should get a new record edit here. So now as you can see, I got 4 records, and in the content, great, I have a new record inserted as well. So now I get the keyword, which is doc training, and I get the paragraph about doc training. Great. The next thing I need to do is increment the number of requests or number of generations that the user has made, right? So I need to update that. And to do that, let's just go to Airtable. Let's update a record. I'm going to use the same user or the same record ID as before, because we already know what that is right here. And I'm just going to increment this number. So from 2, it becomes 3. So let's go to make and the users table, where the record ID is this right here. Let's just grab the number of generations that we had before and increment it by 1. So let's grab this here. And over here, I'm just going to add 1 to that. And that should increment that by 1. So this is increment number of user requests. And let's run this once. So if I run this on doc training once more, I should get another entry happening in the content field, so which is this right here. And this should now be 3. Great. So as you can see, if I look at this 3, this changed from 2 to 3 as well. So this is working well. Now, let's go back to Softr. Let's hit publish. Let's open that up and let's see what this looks like. So get the login screen, great. And what I want is just to be able to test this. So I'm just going to go to preview here. I can see this as a logged in user. And yeah, so as a non-logged in user, so this is test user as example.com. Great. I have the form, which is broken. Okay. And this is the home page. So this is the test user. Okay. Let's just figure out the users part. So let's go to users here. Let's add and let's sync with the data source actually. We choose the data source, which I don't know if I added this, yes, software project. So it's number 5. Let's choose the table, which is users. Let's grab all the records and let's map the email to email. So these fields will appear whenever a user profile is displayed. Okay, we have the name. We can choose avatar if we want. Software managed fields. We can also have created time. Okay, let's save and sync. And this is syncing with users. So if it all goes well, we should see Kevin at kevin.com. Great. So that is there. Status is not invited, but it is synced. Okay. So if I hit preview, what happens? Can I log in as Kevin at kevin.com? That is my question. So over here, great. I have the user right here. We're about to preview as Kevin. Okay, great. So now Kevin can see his entries here, or a bunch of actual fake data, which I don't really like. It is Kevin at kevin.com though, but not the actual data that I would be expecting right here, which is this here. So let's just delete this and let's go back to Softr. Let's go back to our pages. Let's go back to the home page. And over here, let's just figure this out so it shows the correct data. Sort items per page 6. Okay. Linked filter to content. Okay. So let's say here, main section, we have the layout, we have the cover media. I mean, I'm not interested in that, so let's just hide this. Record ID, not interested. Let's just delete that. We have the linked, which is the email, so let's leave this. The name, I mean, there's nothing here, so let's just map this to the user request. So that will be doc training, great. And let's also add another one, which is the actual generated content. And now we got that, great. And I just want to remove the stuff right there. So secondary section, let's delete that. Okay, great. And we get the information right there. I think that should be good to go. We have the search field as well here, which you can leave for now. Let's just publish the updates. So this saves and let's hit preview once more. Okay, so now since we're logged in as Kevin at kevin.com, we get the information Probably, I mean, I don't even need to have the kevin@kevin.com because the user doesn't, obviously doesn't care that it's his email because he's only seeing what he has inserted. And over here, I don't want to have this search included where the user can see someone else's content anyway. So that doesn't make sense. But anyway, here we get the keyword and we get the paragraph. If we were to run this once more, or let's actually test it. And let's say instead of dog training, we say best laptops. I need to go to make, hit run once, so this starts listening. Let's hit submit, and let's see what we get here. So we get thank you for submitting the form. Okay, let's see if make got that. Let's see if it has. The problem is here. So let's see what we got in terms of information from the webhook. So we got user request, and I think here we're passing along something else instead of user request. It was like test message or something. Yeah, it was message. So this is breaking the system. So just put in user request there, hit save, and over here, we need to do the same thing as well. So put in user request rather than text message. Let's try again, run once. Let's go back here. Let's type in best laptops, submit. Thank you for submitting the form. We go to make. This is now running through as well. So here, if I come back and refresh, I should get 3 entries, which I don't. Okay, so let's refresh this in case it's taking its sweet time, but no, I'm not getting that information. So let's go back here. Okay, for some reason, okay, this is the issue here. Here I'm getting unnamed user. So for some reason here, this is not saving the content to the right user. It's trying to save it to the record ID 1, which is the record ID it got from here. But, okay, let's go back, look at the history and see why that didn't work. So here, and to make it easier to debug, okay, so this created another test user. So for some reason, it didn't pick up that this was the user we were going for. Okay, but we also have test user at example.com. So maybe, just maybe, this wasn't on the right user. Try this one more time. I'm curious why it created a new user there. Let's just delete these users here. Just have kevin@kevin.com. And let's go back, hit publish. Open this up. Let's see if we can actually log in. So kevin@kevin.com. And here I need a password. And what would that be? If I go to users, so this user is activated. Creation method is source, okay. Authentication, email, password. The problem is that I don't know what the user's password is. I can resend an invite, I can download, I can deactivate the user. Before there used to be like a magic link as well. Not sure if that still exists. Okay. Authentication. Will your users need to log in? Yes. How will they log in? Email, password, single sign-on as enterprise. So let's turn on magic link as well. So this would allow them to hit one link that you can send them and they will immediately be logged in. So for sign up, people can sign up on their own. Okay, so let's open that up. Security, log out users every 90 days. So we can leave that as is. We have users here. And let's just publish the updates. Oh, and now we have the generate magic link, great, which is the one I'm looking for. So now if I generate the magic link for this user, where is that? Or where does that show? Magic links have successfully been generated. Okay, great. So now I have this magic link for the user. So technically you could copy this, send it to the user, and once they log in with that magic link, they would immediately be logged in as themselves, right? So let's just try this out as this is the live version that the user would see. So let's type in best laptops. Let's go to make. Let's turn this on or hit run once and now hit submit. Thank you for submitting the form. Okay, great. And let's just see whether this information came through successfully. So over here, we got some error, which is value null is not a valid record ID. Okay. So for some reason, okay, we're not passing along the user email, which is a problem. Okay. So let's go back in the home page. And we need to send user email along with the webhook or with the keyword information, essentially. So let's go to here for the questions. Let's add a field. It's an input field. It's a hidden, let me just zoom in here. It's a hidden field where the value is the logged in user email. Great. So like this, as part of the information we send to make, this should also send the user email, which means that we'll be able to use that to first grab the record ID and then save it to the right account, essentially. So let's test this once. Let's go here. Let's try this again. I'm logged in as Kevin. So now in make, okay, not yet. I don't get that. I didn't get that. So let's just publish this and open up the latest version because I might have still been on the older one. So let's go to make, run once, submit. Great. And now I get this right here, field CY. And I believe that was the name right here. So let's just map this to email. So it's a bit clear when we get the information in make. So let's publish the new updates, close that, go back to make, run once. And let's open up as if we're Kevin. Type that in. And now we should get and make that gibberish and the email, which we get right here. So there's the user request and the email. Great. So let's connect this again. Over here, let's map this correctly to the email. And let's try this once more. So let's hit run once. Let's go back here. Let's type in best laptops, submit. And let's see what happens here. So far, so good. We've got number of generations for Kevin, 3. Great. No problems there. Let's look at Airtable. This is now 4. Great. Let's go back to content. We get best laptops. Great, which is associated with Kevin at kevin.com as well. So let's just remove this. This is now 4. Great. So that should also have been updated just now. Great. 20 seconds ago, went from 3 to 4. And we can remove the test. I mean, this part of the Softr configuration, so whatever. And let's just hit save. Now, if I refresh here, I should also get the best laptops. Great. So I get the best laptops right there. Potentially what I want to do is sort that or have a created time, right? So I'd be able to sort that if I wanted to based on the date that this information was created. So here I know that best laptops was created last, or the latest was the latest record right there. Which means that if I go here, I can somehow filter that or sort that right here, I guess, based on the created linked user requests. Might need to generated content, required ID, user request. So this seems to not be, yeah, I probably would need to, this is called created actually, yeah. Created A to Z, maybe. No, Z to A. So this should just show, yeah, best laptops first. So let's save that, great. If I go back here and refresh, I should now get, yes, best laptops as the first record. I'm going to remove this linked as well. I don't want that to be showing there. So let's just go to the search bar here. And let's remove the search. So that was removed from there. Actually, I like the search filter. What I don't want is this linked ability. So this right here needs to go. And here I have a second filter if I wanted to leave that on, but let's just delete that as well. So now I just get the search and I just get the information there. As for the search, let's see. Placeholder search text, search, and you can search by the generated content. Great. So if I type in either by generated content, I don't know if I can choose multiple items. Yeah, I can also do that, yeah. So I can search based on the user request or the generated content, which makes sense. So either by this keyword or by the generated content right here. Here I also have an add record, which I don't think makes sense because I don't want users to add records here. Records will just be added through the form right there. So let's remove that add record button. So we have, where's the add? I don't think that's the add for us. I think that is the action. Yeah. So here I don't want to have an add record as an action. So this now removes the add from there. Publish, publish. Okay. I think, yeah, what we need to do is just figure out what happens if the user requests have been exceeded, right? So in this case, I want that if this is now, let's say this is now, we set it as 5, right? So we would only be allowed one more generation, and then the next time around, it would not actually generate anything. So we grab that. It was still before this next time around. The time after that, this would be 5. We already have 5 here. So it would fall, or it would match this condition where it's greater than or equal to. So in that case, potentially what we want to do is, now the problem is that with this free account, we can't really return anything right here, right? So it would need to be a record in the Airtable. So let's just leave this as that version. So here, I'm just going to create a record, and I don't need to increment the number of the user requests. All I would need to do is clone that. And here I'm just going to say, let's put in the user request, which is the same keyword here. As for the generated content, I will say you have exceeded your limits on the free trial. Please sign up. Let's save. Let's call this error. Rename. Let's call this error. Wrong case. Error message. Save. Let's try this twice more so we get that. So here, I mean, this can also be called, instead of table 1, we want to call that like homepage or something. And we want to remove the form here, which is a broken page. Let's just test out the form and see if it works. So let's just say microphone as the keyword, submit. So this submits the form. I also said, yeah, I want to remove the user email from showing up there. So here, let's also do that as well. So as for content, let's just remove the linked information, which should be that right there. So now we just get the keyword and the content. So that is great. Publish, publish. If I go back here, that should remove the email. Great. I get the microphone text and I get the paragraph right here. What we could also do is have each of these pages be their own single page, right? Because at the moment, this is kind of cutting off here. So what we could do would be to have this as a list. I believe you can add a button, item button right here, where we open the details page. Great. So now we have that. It could open a new page. So we can create details page. Let me zoom in here for content. So let's just do that. And this should add a new page, content details, which gives us the complete paragraph, right? So this is great. And let's just figure this out as to what type of content we want here. So for example, we don't want the record ID here. We don't want this text right here. We don't want anything else right there. So what we don't want the cover media. So let's just remove this, which remove the image from there. We don't want the record ID here. So let's just remove that. We want the generated content, great. We don't want the linked, which is the email, so that removes it there. In section 1, we have a bunch of stuff here, so we don't want that as well. Can trash that. And that gives us, great, the information there. What we do want is the actual user request right here, which is the keyword that we had, right? Which is this doc training here. So let's just put that on top right there. I mean, we cannot, let's have the title and subtitle. Can we have this to be, It would be great if this could be the actual keyword, but potentially that doesn't seem to be an option. We could have this layout. That doesn't seem to be doing much though. Okay, so let's just remove the title and subtitle here. We can just have this. Now instead of action edit, I would like to have an action which is something else. So let's see what are the options. Edit a record. Add item button. Open details page, scroll to open URL, edit record, one-click update, delete, download, export, call API. So this will allow us to do something with that. Yeah, let's just remove this for now. So go here, let's delete that, and now the button is removed. Potentially what we want is to go back to the details page. So let's just leave that. Is this actually, yeah, I think this is details page. What I want is to open the, not the details page, what's this called? Like the page we were on before. Content details, I guess. Or is that, I guess this is the page we're on now. So no, what I want is the page we had before, which was called, we go back to pages, table 1 details. No, that's not the page. So where that was the home page, which is this table 1. So let's give these some better names. So let's go to settings here, general. This is the home, right? No, I want to save. So let's hit save here. Table 1 detail doesn't exist, so we can trash that. And here we have the content details. Okay, so this is the, what do I want to call this? Let's call this detailed. Hit save. So now what I want in my detailed page is that this button takes me back to the home page. So this should open. Why can't I go to open details page? No. Let's delete this, try again. Open URL, download. The way I see it is that this is going to open the same page, which isn't what I want. So maybe I have to specify that directly. So let's just refresh this. This is still being called table 1 for some reason. Anyway, so now I have the button here. If I hit open, this opens up this page. Great. If I hit open here, yeah, this is kind of an infinite loop type of thing. So what I want is just to go back to my root, which, let's see if we can change action, scroll to open URL, select URL, select URL field, enter custom URL. And you can't really see here, but I'm just trying to enter the, let me just move myself out the way. So what I'm going to try to do is just enter the root here, hit add, and I'm just curious if this will open up the home page or just breaks the whole thing. Let me just move myself back there. Let's go back here. Let's refresh this. It's open when it comes to selecting the best, so that's great. Now if I hit open, okay, that takes me back to the home page. Great. So instead of open, let's give it a text called back. Okay, let's hit publish. What else? Let's go back to the home page. So here I don't like this menu that we have, right? So let's see if we can just do away with it. So here, show hierarchy, 3 lines. No, table 1. So this is the home page. Okay, let's just type that as put in home there. So that changed the text here. And the secondary form we don't need, so let's just remove that. So now we get the menu right there. However, it's not really doing anything, and it's also just showing on the home page, I guess. So you could, obviously, if you have more items, it would be useful. However, at the moment, I don't think it is very useful. So let's try the whole process from start to finish. Let's just go to the page we built, and now I'm logged in as Kevin, right? So let's log in, or assume we're not logged in. So here we get this page, don't have an account, hit sign up. So I'm just going to enter my email, gmail.com, hit continue. We sent you a verification code. Okay, let me see if I got that. Go here, got the code, paste that in there, hit continue, create a password. Okay, so my name is Kevin, let's call it Kevin F. The password is password123. Does not meet requirements. Okay, so capital P, nope. One symbol, at least 12 characters. Let's fill that up with exclamation points. Okay, so that's the password, and repeat your password. Don't do that when you create a password. And now I'm logged in. Great. So now in my Airtable, I should get a new user. Great, with my email right there. Okay. That is empty and that is empty. So that makes sense. What I'm curious about is whether when we create this user, if this is empty, whether this will throw an error or not when it comes to the actual incrementing of that value. So let's just try that out. If I go here, let's run this once. And now as Kevin F, let's just enter dog training. Submit. Thank you for submitting the form. And let's see what we get right here. So far, so good. Airtable. And now I get one. Okay, so if it was empty or 0, doesn't seem to make a difference. If I go to my content, we get kevin@gmail.com, which is my real email, created at this time, which is the time now. Great. And I get the keyword, dog training, and the actual paragraph that was created. Great. And if I go back to Softr and I refresh this, I should get my dog training paragraph right here. Great. I can open this. I get the paragraph right there. Great. And I can also go back. Awesome. So this is working as expected. So as you saw in this video, I went step by step to creating a web app that takes in as input this keyword right here, sends it to make.com right here, and then it provides us with some information. If it's within the right bounds, it allows us to create that paragraph. If not, it goes down this route. What I want to do, just to close off this video, is type in 1 there. So now what I want to see is if I'm the logged in user here and I type in microphone, whatever, wrong spelling, but hit submit. What I want, first of all, is ensure that this is running, which it wasn't. So I'm not going to get anything. Oh yeah. Okay, maybe it was running. And here I get, you have exceeded your limits on the free trial. Please sign up. So now let's just stop this. If I go to Softr and refresh, I should see that error message here. Great. Please sign up. What would, I think, however you need to be on the paid plan, you would need to, like potentially getting a response back here that would allow you to just redirect to the page where you would get this instead of getting it to show up here. So I think that would also be the next best thing to do, because here it just seems that it's part of what you had before with the same setup. But if that was returned right here instead of the submit button, I think it would also be the next best step. And potentially, we just dig around for a second here. Hit the OK. So there's no information about responses. Apparently, it's just about sending the information to a webhook. Webhook, send to make. Let's actually just, if we choose webhook, can we get a response back? Send to webhook. Let's just test this for a second. So let's copy this. Let's unlink and let's just send a response back. So webhook response, and we just say, oops, and hit save. Let's run this once and let's paste in that webhook URL right there. Publish, publish. So what I'm expecting is potentially getting a oops message, because in that case, we could also just show the user message directly right here. So let's just refresh. If I type something in here, no, I still get thank you for submitting the form. So this is not waiting around for a webhook response. So even though I sent oops here, this was not waiting around right here. So I think you would need to wait, am I on the right? So I'm here on, I think, kevin@kevin.com, not the new account that I tested. So let's just to double check this is the right. Yeah, doesn't seem to make a difference. So, oh yeah, so this was waiting for, let's wait for new data. Let me just test this one last time. Yeah, and this is still saying thank you for submitting the form. So potentially, let's see if there's a different type of response that we could get. So webhook, image, submit. Logged in user can submit only once, can only submit once. Doesn't make any sense, but questions, logic. After step 1, go to that. Yeah. So the ending here, all other cases go to ending 1. And how do we? Okay, so I think it need to be on the free trial, so you can change the after step 1 right here. So instead of having ending 1, we could add a different part right there. And I assume that might be where we can define what happens instead of the normal thank you for submitting the form. So in our case, what we're doing is we're providing or like telling the user that they've exceeded their request, but we're waiting, or we're doing it over here as part of the list of items the users would have generated. So that was what I was trying to do right there. Anyway, enough rambling. It's almost an hour. So let's just close this here. Thank you for watching. If you want to not miss any future videos related to AI and automation, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, so you'll get notified once I release new videos. And if you have any questions about Softr, Airtable, or Make, the stuff that we covered in this video, feel free to let me know in the comments below. If you want to get the blueprint that I built in Make, also check out the link in the description, where you can get that for free all over at that link. So I hope you have a great day, and I'll catch you soon.